Welcome back to Top 10 Amazing Facts, the channel where history, geography, and culture come together to reveal the incredible stories behind the world we live in today. In this video, we're taking a journey back in time, long before the borders of the United States were drawn the way we know them. Believe it or not, huge sections of modern-day America once belonged to Mexico, including some of the biggest, most famous states we know today. So today we're breaking down 10 U.S. states that were once part of Mexico, some entirely and some only partially. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another fascinating episode. Let's dive in. Number 10. Kansas, the often forgotten Mexican claim. Kansas is usually thought of as a classic Midwestern state, farms, prairies, and the geographic center of the U.S. But history is full of surprises. In the early 1800s, southwestern Kansas, especially the land south of the Arkansas River, fell under Mexican territorial claims. These lands were part of a fluid frontier, an area that wasn't heavily settled by either side, but which Mexico still considered part of its northern wilderness. At the time, borders weren't marked by fences or signs. They were defined by rivers, mountains, and exploration routes, and they often changed depending on who drew the map. Because of this, the southwestern edge of Kansas, a region that today includes plains and small towns, was once considered part of Mexico's far north. The history of Kansas shows just how complicated and blurred territorial boundaries were during this period, especially on the Great Plains. Number 9. Oklahoma, the panhandle that switched hands. Oklahoma has one of the most unusual shapes of any state, and that famous panhandle has a history to match. Before it became American land, that western tip of the panhandle was actually part of Mexico. This area later became known as No Man's Land, a region that belonged to no U.S. state and wasn't claimed by any territory. People who lived there often had no official government, no sheriffs, and very few laws. It wasn't until 1890 that the panhandle was attached to the Oklahoma Territory and then, eventually, to the state we know today. So, even though the rest of Oklahoma wasn't part of Mexico, the panhandle absolutely was. Number 8. Wyoming, a tiny, overlooked piece of Mexico's past. Wyoming, the land of Yellowstone and the Tetons, seems worlds away from Mexico. But a small southwestern corner of the state, near where Wyoming meets Utah, was once part of Mexico's northernmost frontier. This land wasn't heavily populated, and in the early 1800s, it wasn't clearly defined. But based on the maps of the Mexican territory known as Alta California, that little corner of Wyoming did fall within Mexico's claimed boundaries. It's a small detail but a fascinating one because it shows just how far north Mexico's influence and borders extended, reaching deep into what most people think of as the American West. Number 7. Colorado, where the Mexican border followed the river. Colorado is best known for its towering Rocky Mountains, but its southern lands once belonged to Mexico. The border at the time followed the Arkansas River, which meant that everything south of that river, including towns, valleys, and plains, was part of Mexican territory. This region was important because it served as a crossroads between native tribes, Mexican traders, and later American settlers. You can still see the influence today in the Spanish place names scattered across southern Colorado, a reminder of the deep cultural roots left behind by centuries of Spanish and Mexican rule. Colorado's history shows how rivers shaped borders long before precise surveying tools existed. Number 6. Texas, the revolution that changed everything. Texas is one of the most famous examples of former Mexican territory. Originally part of the Mexican state of Coahuila y Tejas, Texas was home to both Mexican citizens and American settlers who had been invited to farm the land. But cultural differences, political tensions, and disputes over slavery eventually led to conflict. By 1836, Texas declared independence and became the Republic of Texas, a fully separate nation. It stayed independent for 9 years until the United States annexed it in 1845. This annexation angered Mexico and played a major role in sparking the Mexican-American War, which ultimately reshaped half the continent. Texas's story is one of dramatic revolutions, shifting alliances, and the rapid expansion of American power. Number 5. New Mexico, A deep and lasting Mexican heritage. Unlike Texas, New Mexico remained firmly under Mexican control until 1848. It was the heart of the Mexican province called Santa Fe de Nuevo Mexico, which had been established long before the United States even existed. Santa Fe was one of the oldest cities in North America, with cultural traditions, architecture, and religion deeply rooted in Spanish and Mexican history. The Santa Fe Trail, one of the most famous trade routes, linked Missouri to this Mexican territory and became a major economic highway. New Mexico's culture today still reflects this heritage. Adobe houses, Spanish surnames, Catholic traditions, and bilingual communities all show the enduring influence of its Mexican past. Number 4. Arizona, a state shaped by two major land transfers. Arizona was entirely Mexican before becoming part of the United States. After the Mexican-American War, most of Arizona was ceded to the U.S. in 1848. But the southern portion, including cities like Tucson and Yuma, was not included in that first transfer. It wasn't until the Gadsden Purchase of 1853, when the U.S. paid Mexico $10 million, that the remaining southern strip was added. The U.S. wanted this land for a potential railroad route, showing how transportation needs helped shape the map. Arizona's deep Mexican roots can still be seen today in its place names, festivals, architecture, and cuisine. Number 3. Utah, Mexico's northern highlands. Israel plenty of mountain ranges, deserts, and salt flats. Utah was once part of Mexico's vast territory of Alta California. Mexican control was minimal in this region due to its harsh climate and remote location, but sovereignty still extended over the land. This changed dramatically in 1847 when the Mormon pioneers arrived, just 1 year before the United States took control through the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. Utah's history is a powerful example of how quickly territories could change hands during this turbulent period. Number 2. Nevada, a desert that once belonged to Mexico. Nevada, home to Las Vegas and the Sierra Nevada Mountains, was also once largely part of Mexico. The only exception is a small slice in the northeast, but everything else was considered part of Alta California. Although it was sparsely populated under Mexican rule, it later exploded in population during the mining boom of the 1800s, especially with the discovery of the Comstock lode, one of the richest silver deposits in history. Nevada's transformation from a quiet Mexican frontier to a booming American mining center is one of the most dramatic changes of any state on this list. Number 1. California, Mexico's most valuable northern territory. California was by far the most important northern province of Mexico. It was rich in coastline, fertile valleys, forests, and natural resources. Under Mexican rule, California developed mission churches, cattle ranches, and coastal trade posts, many of which still stand today. Everything changed in 1848 when the territory became part of the United States. And then, just 1 year later, the California Gold Rush began, bringing hundreds of thousands of people from around the world and transforming California forever. Today, California is one of the most influential economic regions on the planet, and its deep connection to Mexican history is still visible everywhere, from its place names to its architecture to its cultural diversity. Bonus: how the land was acquired. Most of the lands in this video came under U.S. control through two major actions. 1. The Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, 1848. This treaty ended the Mexican-American War and transferred huge territories to the United States, including California, Nevada, Utah, most of Arizona, most of New Mexico, parts of Colorado, parts of Wyoming, parts of Kansas, and parts of Oklahoma. 2. The Gadsden Purchase, 1853. The U.S. bought the southern portions of Arizona and New Mexico for $10 million to build a potential railroad line. Together, these actions transferred more than half of Mexico's territory, reshaping North America permanently. And there you have it, 10 U.S. states that were once part of Mexico, each with its own fascinating story of shifting borders and historical turning points. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another amazing fact. Thanks for watching Top 10 Amazing Facts, and I'll see you in the next video.